Right, right. I think so. Yeah, welcome. Nice evening.
Thank you. I'm so excited about this.
Now, welcome to the Innovation Cafe as well. I think it's the first time that you are here. So we have one, two sessions per week. This is informal. We are all innovation executives or professionals, and we are here to learn with each other and share in an informal way. And then, by the way, we also upload these videos to YouTube. That's part of the invite, so that people can watch later. Okay. I'm trying to become a famous YouTuber.
Let's see how that goes. Yeah, maybe we should add some more taglines to this. So innovation is not the right thing. Maybe some catchy phrase. This is how you will not die in corporate. Something that is more catchy if you want to be a YouTube star. So we should definitely work on that.
I'm thinking about hiring my 11-year-old son because I have asked him, what do I need to do to become a YouTuber? Because young kids, they know everything about YouTube and TikTok. And he said, you need good content once per day. I was like, okay, good content, that's a challenge. Every single day, that's a big, big challenge. And he was like, okay, so you asked, right? If you want to become a YouTuber, you really need to do that. And I said, okay, I'm learning with you.
This is so true. I mean, there is obviously some parts of the population that is more easy for them. So if I would just upload a selfie each day, nobody would care. Really, nobody would do that. I mean, who wants to see my selfies each day? So this is not me being at least an Instagram star or something. For YouTube, well, yeah, sure. This is more about deep content. That this is this is of course true.
You need to be positive. The world wants to know who we are. We are pushing forward in what regards innovation. We are the ones helping organizations to survive. So the world needs to know who we are. We need to show our face. Hi, Pedro. Good to see you. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi.
How's Lisbon?
Hot? Getting hot in here.
The same problem in Madrid, I think. Yeah. Spain is also undergoing hot weather. All right. So welcome to the Innovation Cafe. I think today we are going to continue our conversation in what regards foresight, AI. How can AI help us to predict the future? Okay, I'm maybe exaggerating, but my dream as an innovation manager and head of innovation will be to advise my CEO, please do this and don't do that, because I have a piece of software that can predict what is going to. This is the ultimate dream, right? So I'm waiting for the answer.
Sure. Me too. Yeah, me too. But let's see how far we can get. How close we can get. Sure.
Christian, thank you very much for the opportunity to have you in the cafe. Okay, the floor is yours, the microphone is yours, and feel free to share your screen as well. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. I will do that. So just I'm trying to share my screens now and take a couple of seconds to come up. Can you give me a thumbs up if you see something? Yeah, there is one thumbs up too. Perfect. All right. Yeah, thanks. That's already enough. Happy to be here. Maybe for the next 15 minutes or 20 minutes, I brought some insights from Germany today. So I'm calling in from Germany, from the southern part of Germany, actually, sitting in a town called Nuremberg. This is around 500,000 people, I guess. I'm working with a company called Atonics. We are, of course, since there is no boundaries today, we're, of course, a global organization. We are around 100 people, 100 innovation enthusiasts. And what we do is we help our customers around the globe since about 10.5 years now with innovation. Now, this is a topic which is maximum broad, right? So innovation is everything basically, or innovation at least is a very broad topic. And we're kind of focusing on foresight and innovation, specifically on a software platform that we have built in the last 10 years that is used. But this is not a marketing session today. I'd rather want to share some very specific insights on how artificial intelligence, or at least machine learning, is applied in a small spot of the innovation process. And let me just sort a couple of things and then set the focus and share some experiences with all of you and everybody that is possibly watching that on YouTube in the future. So here's just a very high level overview picture, which I then want to focusing, but I'm just using that to kind of sort things a little bit. Everybody today has some sort of innovation process or some sort of innovation framework, and this is nothing too magic right now, but basically what we do is how we sort these things is we are typically using three different parts to kind of sort the innovation framework or the innovation process. We say where to play, how to win, and how to execute. So the very left-hand part is kind of the where to play part. This is all about environmental scanning and developing what we call opportunity spaces for innovation. And in the where to play part, this is also where I will be focusing on today. But that's specifically, monitoring and also spotting change in the corporate environment as early as possible, such that companies have enough time to make sure they develop an adequate response to that. And we do that, for example, by building technology radars and trend radars and by continuous monitoring and scouting. And here we specifically have tested different approaches of machine learning, or in the broader sense of artificial intelligence. And I will specifically shed a light on this. And as a result, our customers are kind of, they're building these some smaller army of artificial intelligence bots, if you want to call it like that, that are basically constantly researching for them and highlighting things. Say, this might be interesting to you. This might be an interesting spot to look at. Here is some competitor coming up pretty quickly. Here is maybe a new trend emerging that might be relevant for you. This kind of the thing that has been done very manually in the past, and that we are trying to automate step by step by applying these kind of state-of-the-art algorithms. And then there is a spot which I will not talk about. This is called how to win. This is basically then once you have identified new playing fields or opportunity spaces, then this is all about ideation campaigns, innovation campaigns, ideating and getting from idea to innovation projects. And at the right-hand side, then we call this how to execute. This is then managing the entire innovation portfolio, doing innovation road mapping, and getting the innovations onto the market. That's kind of an overall software system, an end-to-end innovation system that is used here. But we will focus on the very early parts. And recently, I've been given a lot of discussions and a lot of talks, and I'm constantly labeling this with what you can see here as well. We call this, "Are you ready for the new?" And this sounds more marketing-ish than anything else. But the basic idea is basically we see, specifically with our partners and also with our customers that we're talking to, that the discussion is evolving around two things. One is basically going into the offense right now and developing new products and services based on the changing environment, the corporate environment that they have. But at the same time, sometimes they also just have to cut costs. They have to basically say, well, you know what, the past 5 to 10 years, they were, for most companies or for most industries, they were just growth. So the numbers were increasing, figures were increasing, and today this might be a bit different. So at the same time, they might also ask themselves, how can we actually defend, not be offensive in creating new growth opportunities, but where can we maybe save costs? Where do we maybe have some legacy projects, some legacy investments in our innovation portfolio, and how can we find that? And at the end of the day, then of course, look at the way forward by maybe creating and updating, your innovation roadmap, and see how is your way into the future and how is this all connected in a world which is constantly increasing in complexity. But the very left-hand part here, the part where to play, is kind of the key objective or the focus of the session, and basically to do two things. One is to spot areas where to play. So how can a machine or an algorithm, me as an innovation manager, or being a strategist, or being a market insights manager, being a scout, being a strategist, how can it support me to spot areas where to play, but also maybe how can it help me to discover new ideas for how to win? And there is a lot of possibilities already today, and it's not too magic. This is something which is well known. It's just about using the right things at the right time, and basically applying that in a sense that helps innovation management. Why using artificial intelligence or any methods from this large toolbox of artificial intelligence? Well, I'm sure everybody knows that, and I don't think we need to go too much into details here, but obviously, since the data that you can analyze in your corporate environment is growing like exponentially, be it scientific publications for research, be it patents for intellectual property, or be it just information about competitors, about startups, about anything that's happening in the news, investments, and also political stuff. There is so much information, so much data that you need actually to collect. You need to know where it is, but you also need to analyze that. And especially large companies oftentimes do that. They invest a lot. They have maybe teams of 5, 10, 15, 20 different people, and they call themselves scouts, trend scouts, technology scouts. So they're creating these huge reports about trends and technologies that may affect the business. And we have basically found that a large proportion of that manual work can actually be automated. Now, the idea is not to get rid of these technology scouts or these trend scouts, but the idea is actually to say, hey, don't invest your time into searching, into analyzing, but invest your time into sense making, into interpretation, into investing into different parts to the innovation process. And I've kind of put this into a very simple thought framework. And this is not something that I have invented, but something that's been around for decades, the known and unknown matrix. That's kind of how we could think about that. That's a pretty common thing and an easy thing. You have kind of the knowns or the unknowns, which means I know something or I don't know something. But it becomes very interesting to think about that in terms of, for example, what are the unknown knowns in a company? So things that a company and organization as a whole should know. For example, what is your portfolio of innovation projects you're working on? That's not so easy for a globally distributed organization, obviously, but you should better know that, especially in times where you need to make sure your investments go into the right directions. And I will step by step guide you through these boxes here and just share some inspirations and some experiences we made in the past couple of 10 or 11 years that we are already on the market. And we'll start with the most easy one. Presumably the most easy one, to be honest, the known knowns. So these are things that we know. So now that should be pretty easy, but this is tacit and implicit knowledge that people have in their brains. Now, imagine being a large corporation, a global and distributed corporation, and we basically say the most, or one of the most foundational tasks to actually start leveraging any type of data analytics, be it machine learning or any other technique from artificial intelligence, is to write down what you already know. And we see that this is, to some extent, already a large challenge. So when we basically start collaborating with our partners, we sometimes ask the easy question, well, do you actually know the technology trends that will impact your business on short, medium, and long term? Do you know that? Is there any list? Is there any structured way of how you actually store that information? Which technology trends might be impacting the market and your products and your services and also your customers, obviously, in certain time horizons. And oftentimes you get the answer like, well, I think, blockchain is a thing, or, cloud computing might be affecting our business, but a really structured assessment of that oftentimes is missing. So we start here and build up, for example, a technology radar specifically tailored for an organization. You can see that on the right-hand side here. So this is kind of a result, building a technology radar specifically with the view of one organization or one market that is focusing on, for example, technology trends or market trends or political trends. It depends a bit on how you look at things. And then we evaluate them together with the customer based on certain criteria, based on the potential impact, based on maybe the time to market for specific trends, based on when we think that the tipping point of a certain trend is reached, and then it will basically a large topic for the entire industry, for example. And as a result, we kind of have that. And then we do the same for the internal perspective. And again, just very simple, write up a list of your existing innovation pipeline, for example. And this is not trivial specifically for global brands and global corporations. But then by doing that, we have kind of two things. And this is not machine learning. This is just a baseline foundation, basically, that you need to do. So we have the outside perspective, the external perspective, what's coming from the market, what's coming from technology push or market pull. And we do have the internal perspective. What are you working on? What is your innovation project? What are your investments in the innovation pipeline? And this is kind of the really, baseline foundation in the box that we call the known knowns. And then we start applying first data analytics to that. And the first step for applying data analytics is pretty trivial, but already quite powerful. So this is the field that we call the unknown knowns. So there are knowns in the company, you should know them, but actually you have not shed a light on them. And you can ask basically data analytics in a specific form of that. Here in that case, we apply graph theory, a very simple version of network analysis and graph theory to that, by just basically connecting, and you see it on the left-hand side, connecting all the information with each other. So we do, for example, connect technology trends and market trends to innovation projects from your innovation pipeline, because we, in the previous step, collected all the data. And just connect all the data points and have them, as mentioned before, also evaluated in this simple example here by potential impact. So the color of these bubbles is basically the internal assessment of the impact of a trend, of a market trend or a technology trend on the organization. And you cannot see that quite properly, but the little icons inside these bubbles are basically the types of information. Is it a trend? Is it an innovation project, for example? And just connect that. And then this picture basically here applies. And now when you look only at the outliers of that innovation graph that kind of has emerged, you can already, by outlier detection, I mean, this is by visual inspection, but you can also do that by an outlier detection algorithm. This is pretty straightforward, no magic involved here. You can already start to ask some questions. And one question here might be, there is these three different trends in your innovation graph. One is called peer-to-peer transactions, the other one is called location-based something, and the third one is called on-demand delivery. And they have a red color. So that means your innovation manager, your strategist, or your scouts have said that this has a very high potential impact on your organization, but we do see this is totally disconnected from your innovation pipeline. There is no project running, there is no initiative, at least none that we have collected inside this project. Now you could, of course, ask the question, why is that the case? Why does strategy or market intelligence or even the technology scouting or trend scouting team say that there is a high impact and you agree on that opinion, but at the same time, you're not investing into that by maybe, doing projects or, I don't know, buying startups or doing collaborations, whatever kind of your innovation strategy might be, or your mix of innovation strategy might be, you're not doing something here. So by that, you can just create a list of things by very easy analytics and say, well, might that be new playing fields of interest for the future that we then, in the next step, can run an ideation campaign, an innovation campaign on that and try to see what's kind of happening here. But you can also do that the way around and have, again, look at the innovation graph, but now we're not looking at possible opportunities for the future to the offense. We're going into the defense and shed a different light on that question. Now we, for example, do analyze the trends in the innovation graph that were rated to have a very low, or at least a low potential impact on your organization. And here in that case, you see an example. So there is one topic that we agreed on is not very important for us as a company, but in turn, you see that there is a lot of innovation activities connected to that. There is projects, there is maybe teams and groups associated with that. And now you could ask the same question, but the exact way around. Why are we investing so much here if we agree that this is not really the future, at least for us as a company? Why are we doing so many things here? And then you go basically in the defense and say, are we still doing the right things? Or should we discuss about, at least discuss these projects and see, can we, I don't know, merge them? Can we do something here to maybe also release resources to invest for potential areas where we think the future might be more, or the investment might be more beneficial to us. And of course, this is very high level. Obviously, behind this, you can have all different innovation numbers, like the resources that you invest in these projects, the full-time equivalents, maybe also the budget that you have allocated to these projects and so on. But this gives you a first good direction how you can do that. And once you've did that, basically, you can go even one step further into the third quadrant here called the known unknowns. And this is basically me or anybody reflecting about the fact that we cannot know everything. So obviously this is, nobody can know everything. So we know that there are unknowns. And we can now connect this with the idea that we have been using in the previous step. So here is an example of what you can do pretty easily with, and then this is tapping into machine learning in that case. So again, let's go back to the kind of the areas that we have spotted where we said, well, this is important topics, but we're not doing something here. Now, the next question might be, what is actually going on in these specific trend areas? What is going on in peer-to-peer transactions and location-based marketing or targeting? What is going on in on-demand delivery? And for this, basically, for every topic, and this is just an example of the innovation cloud that is kind of our software system, but this should not be marketing. This is just how customers are using that, basically, looks like. So, and then you start connecting and creating search fields for this, and you connect this to external databases. You connect this to news databases, to patent databases, to scientific article databases, and so on, to external sources, and start to build kind of an alerting system around these topics to, first of all, just get some insights. What is going on here? Is there activity happening? What are the key players? By, for example, applying a machine learning technique called named entity recognition. Find out what are the company names mentioned in these articles. What is maybe networks of information, and maybe create some couple of alerts that, for example, tell you whenever there is a new company mentioned in that specific space, let me know. Send me an email. And get an overview of what is the currently discussed topics by, for example, clustering all the documents here, and make sure you just get a high-level overview of what's going on, because still you have said this is very important for us as a company, but we're not doing something. But obviously you should not just start doing something, but in the first place, find out what's actually happening here. So you can do that, and you can use, for example, named entity recognition, clustering, and all these different algorithms to basically do that. And this is basically part of the software system that we are using together with our customers and partners here. And the last step, which is now more going into the artificial intelligence, so one step up again from machine learning, now a bit broader in the sense, that's kind of the holy grail that Hugo, you have basically discussed before, or let's say, that would be kind of the wet dream, so to say. I don't even know what I'm looking for, but hey, dear machine, tell me what's going on in the world. This is kind of the, the unknown unknowns. That's kind of the thing that everybody is looking at. And this is just our take on this, but obviously this is not the answer to all real world problems out there. It's totally fine. But this, if you make this as again, as a thought framework, this little dot here is kind of the first things that we know. And the outer circle is things that you don't know, that we had already had that. And this is then the next thing, but the unknown unknowns is actually the rest of the world, right? So this is like your knowledge is such a small part, and your organization obviously is such a small part in the entire ecosystem of everything that exists. And still then the innovation space and the technology space is a small part of the entire world, but still this should just tell you, there is so much out there and you don't know what this is. And that's kind of the same as this poor dog here on the left-hand side. And you basically start to wonder, if, that there might be actually something around us that we don't know, but we should find out. How can we do that? And we are trying this. And how our partners and our customers are trying this is actually they try to create an army of very efficient and narrow artificial intelligence bots. So they should be the virtual representation of an unlimited number of trend and technology scouts. So hopefully by analyzing as much as we can, we try to find new topics that we were not aware of in the beginning. So now we're not saying, show me everything that is going on right now in peer-to-peer transactions. or at any specific topic, but we just say, hey, show me what's going on in mobility, which is a unbelievably broad topic. And now this is not detecting specific signals, weak signals, strong signals of change, but the idea here is really at first just to detect new topics without asking the machine to do so. And for this, we are using a specific version of an unsupervised machine learning algorithm. Technically speaking, this is a latent Dirichlet allocation from the topic modeling space. And we are researching on this since many years now, and we are also having some publicly funded research projects around this. And that's not as easy as it may sound, but at the end of the day, I think we are at a point right now where it's getting really good in just finding new topics by combining a probabilistic approach for finding new topics, monitoring them over time, and trying to detect very small changes in the probabilistic distribution of the topics that are automatically inferred from the data. But at the end of the day, what the outcome is, that is, some of these AI bots over time will tell you, hey, I think in the scientific literature, there is something new coming up. There is maybe a trend, an emerging trend going on. It is still very immature, very small, but we see that there is, from a statistical standpoint, a significant change happening. Dear innovation manager, dear scout, have a look into that. And the machine cannot, at least not today, interpret this for you. And unfortunately, it can also not say, hey, you need to invest here. This would be the holy grail in my wet dream. And if I would have that, probably I would be now, I don't know, I would not be sitting here, but sitting somewhere else. So this is not the ultimate prediction machine, but it can find new topics and new trends at a very early stage, giving you more time to think about, yeah, is this something we should invest in? And you can have an unlimited number of these AI, artificial intelligence bots, to do kind of that job, and then use that, for example, by updating your trend radar, your technology radar, and finding new topics on a continuous basis without even asking for that. That's kind of the basic idea. And we have very successful companies and innovation leaders around the globe doing that. And the added value of this is being faster than the competition. So that's pretty much it. You are faster than your competition. You see where competitors are moving, where topics are moving, and can use this kind of as an early warning system. That might be a good discussion point also for the rest of the Innovation Cafe. I'd be, of course, and maybe you as well, of course, be highly interested if there is some experiences with a data-driven approach for scouting for the early stages of the innovation management, and just to learn maybe from you and from somebody in the call if there are some experiences around that. We'd be happy to discuss. I'm happy to discuss here on LinkedIn, or just join Itonics if you want to. Okay, I just had to do that. Somebody asked me to say that. Of course, that we are hiring. We are more than 100 people right now, so but that's not the focus of the discussion. So I'd be interested in any of your experiences, basically, in that point. And yeah, let me know if there's some things you have experienced in the past.
Hello, are you guys still here?
If there is no experience, this is also fine, because and there is also, by the way, there is also critics on that. So of course, I oftentimes hear, that this is this could be a very limited way of, or let me put it different. This could be something which is intended to replace people. So the fear of applying, for example, artificial intelligence in certain spaces to lose jobs, to cut jobs and stuff like that. We've also experienced this, but we can certainly say this is absolutely not the idea, of course, to do that. How is your take on this?
I think Jordan had a question, but he had the mic off, like if...
I have a question, Christian, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, of course.
Well, excellent presentation, first of all. My question is, in which industries do you see this more present? Because very old school in like not top of the in regard to innovation. Innovation arrives company, and usually when the buzzword is already very popular in the
I think Eloy, I think you have problems with your connectivity, or is it just me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think so, but I think I also understood the question, which is a very relevant question. Thanks for pulling this up. And yeah, there is indeed a specific specialization or a specific focus. Totally agree. And I see this is not mutually exclusive, but I see two different tracks. One is basically classical market research that has been going on for decades, maybe for centuries, I don't know, but at least for decades. You know, that the classical market research agencies that is oftentimes also being found in for example, fast-moving consumer goods industry or in any consumer industry, basically. And they are, you know, heavily relying on qualitative interviews, on panel data, on quantitative research at the end of the day, which is a completely different approach. And I'd say with the ideas that I have shared, you will not be able to cover that because that's a completely different mindset. It's collecting data from point of sale and then basically asking people what they want in the future, which may or may not be biased towards, you know, different things. But that's a completely different track versus the approach that I was talking about, which is of course at the first and foremost tries to take away human bias or human experience bias when researching, when getting data, when analyzing data. But obviously, the human bias comes back in if you assess the analysis results and say, this is important for me as a company or not. But you don't ask people, hey, what do you think is the next big thing, as maybe, or what do you as a customer want for a new running shoe, for a new food, for example. That's not happening here, but you're basically asking the algorithm to find statistical significant changes in a large set of data, which can also be in research and in patents and others. So there is a clear distinction and two different tracks that are emerging here. Absolutely. And I think that's a very valid point you made.
One topic on everything related to AI, and by the way, great presentation. I'm still wrapping my mind around it, so hopefully next question is not too off. But it feels like obviously we have a lot of data going on, a lot of data points. A lot of the application is recognizing either patterns or trends on that side of data or signals, right? And even when we talk about what we don't know, right, is kind of analyzing all of those signals. My question is, if we look at AI slightly from a different lens, which is how do we create something out of something that doesn't exist, right? The overall creation, right? More like generating stuff like genetic algorithms or any stuff like that. That is not just recognizing patterns. And connecting that to what we don't know, how we kind of correlate that with, okay, so what is so new that there aren't even signals now to do any sort of forecast, right? So how all of that fits in on your, viewpoint.
This is awesome. And in fact, there is a specific track of research that is dealing right now with combining creativity and artificial intelligence. I'm closely watching this because this is interesting, but this is not the way that the creativity that humans typically understand being creativity. So let me give you an example of what I mean. I have been part of a research project recently that was trying to use patent data, so historical data from the world versus the patent data from one specific company, so the entire patent database and one company. And the idea basically was to find blind spots, and by this suggest future ideas for research and development. So how that worked was basically, for one, it was tried to model technological know-how from one company into one specific model, not really knowing how this is modeled by the algorithm, but just doing that. And then as a second part, trying to model these different technological building blocks, so maybe solutions, applications of something, versus everything that is already existing in that patent database. And by that, trying to answer a question, does a company have some technological know-how or some technological competencies somewhere inherited in their kind of organizational brain, if you want to call it like that? And does that maybe fit into some black spots or open spaces that are questioned right now, but nobody has found yet? By kind of putting these building blocks into different areas and try to see, does that fit? Is that maybe something that is not invented yet, but that may actually speak to a certain blind spot? That's not the typical human creativity that one would expect, you know, meeting together, do some brainstorming, do some, I don't know, design thinking stuff or whatever. But that's the issue here is that we cannot really understand how an artificial intelligence algorithm, be it a genetic algorithm, be it anything, really reasons, because it's still kind of a black box. So, and this oftentimes leads to discussions that are so much focused around trust. Can we trust that an artificial intelligence system is actually working the way we want or not? And does it maybe spill out the right ideas or the right, if it's about pattern recognition, even there, does it spill out the right things? Or if it's getting more into more creative tasks, does it actually do what I want it to do? And I cannot look into that. So there's also research from the European Union, from other private institutions as well, to try to shed a light on what's actually happening inside these neural nets and these algorithms. But I think we need to understand a bit better how this is actually happening and what questions we should ask to the system to kind of get a better trust or expectation what is actually coming out of that. But that goes hand in hand with adding a bit more spice of creativity, for example, to such a system or such an AI thing. That is totally true, yeah. And I think there will be many things coming up in the near future addressing that. Absolutely.
We have a question here from Marius from Austria. Can you unmute yourself, Marius? I'm okay to read as well. Okay, I will read. So he said, Chris, well done. Great presentation, great topic, very exciting. Which algorithms or which procedures do you use in which phase? With which procedure do you have the greatest success? I ask because the existing team may need new skills with your approach. Linear regression and classification is still possible, but we most likely won't find the next big thing with that.
Yeah, which is absolutely true. Basically, it is a chain and a combination of different things in different phases, exactly as you mentioned that. Maybe just in a high level. So first of all, at the very beginning, when you build up these search fields to kind of, it may be a broad, it may be a very narrow search field. For example, say, look into mobility versus, which is a very broad search field, versus looking into, maybe a very narrow and small topic. So in that space, we make use of semantic analysis for keywords and semantic enrichment of keywords. So there is both databases that we are relying on, external databases, but also a kind of a general taxonomy that we are using to enrich and broaden up basically the search space. And in that phase of the analysis, we are basically relying on semantic similarity and comparisons from a natural language processing in that case, and from concept modeling, basically. That's the first thing. The second thing is when we now look into broader topics, even before we want to find a new trend, we are totally not relying on supervised machine learning, because this is introducing way too much bias into the topic modeling or clustering space. So we are relying on an unsupervised a technique here. Specifically, we are using unsupervised topic modeling, a technique which is coming from the probabilistic space called latent Dirichlet allocation. And here, a specific variant of online learning to save computational time. At the end of the day, what it does is it does not require you to specify any expectations in terms of classes or clusters or labels, but it tries to automatically learn from the data what are the underlying concepts in those documents, in that data. So again, we try to take out the human bias, the human experience from that thing, and model the information by unsupervised machine learning, and in that case by latent Dirichlet allocation, topic modeling, and a specific Bayesian variant of that. And then the next step, basically, we are, of course, also employing trend analysis. It can be linear trend regression, it can be non-linear trend regression, but this is not the core. This is basically just to have another indication of that a topic might be trending, but of course you do not rely only on the observation that you might have found something trending. Just as an example, last year we had a large project with one of the, I'm not allowed to say the name of the company, but one of the global innovation leaders in the industry, specifically in high-tech industry. And there we did a large research project for exactly that, building this AI capability for them and for their strategy department, for the corporate strategy department in that case. And here, very simple, for example, and everybody should know that, we just figured out that if you have any information from the Chinese market, be it, for example, patents from the Chinese market, in most cases, you will always find a positive trend if you just look at the number of publications from China, because it's very simple, and their incentives and their parts of their public funds are basically correlated with the number of publications and the sheer amount of things that they publish and throw on the market. So if you would only just rely on counting and then doing linear regression, of course you would always see China as the best, like everywhere. That's obviously not something for decision. So linear regression or any kind of trend analysis, again, is one piece in the toolbox. It can give one signal, how we call that, one indication for one signal, but that's not the one. Another indication for a signal could be that named entity recognition basically shows you that there is a new company working in one specific spot that you had not have before on your competitor radar, on your company radar. This is another signal, same weight as, for example, a trending topic. And in this line, there is a couple of more indicators that we have collected. They are automatically collected and calculated over time. And these signals are then being shown to the user of the platform, to the strategist, for example, but they again have to interpret it then. And so that's kind of a long answer to a short question, but it's a chain and a toolbox of different things. And for every signal that we try to find, there is a different combination and a different application of mostly unsupervised machine learning algorithms combined in such a way to remove the human actor bias as much as possible, and to provide these signals to the human domain expert in that case. And I know that was quite a long answer, but yeah.
Sorry, Christian. Gaudino here. I also live in Nuremberg, so we are kind of neighbors at the moment because of the pandemic. I'm in Brazil, but
sure.
I just want to again, like, thank you, like, great work. I know you guys do a great work. Just like this last bit you were talking about, is this related to the recent IEEE paper you guys launched? Just
it is part of, so one small part is the IEEE paper that we recently released. Exactly true. This is one tool in the large toolbox for these signals. Very true. Yeah.
Good. It seems like because I go around with the other players in this field, so like something from the Institute for the Future that I think links to this unknowns, but the way they frame when they map signals, they describe signals with just two things. It's what it is, So everything you can say about the thing that is like true and like backed, and you can really like support that with evidence, and the so what. And then the so what can be insane, because then you are asking people to be creative. Seems simple, but just finding like the kind of people who are able to dance between the two things is just very hard. Like the type of people that think about what is very, they go to different bars, they everything, like the so what is different. But I have the impression that what you're building is kind of going in both directions. Of course, the what is there, but it seems like you're advancing on the so what. So if this framework makes sense, could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
It does, absolutely. And I would say that the what part is already at a higher maturity level at the so what part. So I totally agree here. Maybe a couple of words or ideas on the so what part. What we have also been implemented in the past couple of years together with a company from the US, so one of the largest. So it's listed on NASDAQ 100 at the top 10. I'm not allowed to say which one, but there is not too much companies in the NASDAQ 100. So maybe you can imagine, maybe not, doesn't matter. What we did there is basically, this is a large organization with around 60,000 employees. Now you do have the problem that once you are basically once such an insight has passed the very early stages of the innovation funnel, you need some people with incredible high expertise, or at least with interest and knowledge to care about the so what. What are we doing with that? And in this implementation, this is I'm very happy that this is still ongoing and still running, and they're using that. And I think this is not possible in Germany and in Europe due to data regulation and data privacy. So I'm just speaking for US right now. In Germany, people would basically, they would kill me if I would suggest something like that. But what we do there in the US is basically, we do collect on it's not anonymous, so it's related to the employees. We try to collect their interests, and this is being by scanning parts of their publicly available documents, and for example in emails, on network share drives, and their comments, specifically their comments and interests that they put into the social intranet of the company. And we do model this. So we do model topics of interest, again by an unsupervised approach, with the people that are basically talking about this. And you can make some assumptions based on the past experience of that employee, based on the education of the employee. And for example, there are also some employees that have released patents. So you can also see that, for example, some individual might have a strong knowledge in a certain area because they have released some patents in the past. And you could assume from that with a certain confidence that this guy or this girl might have a specific knowledge in one area. Now, if you go one step further and you have now the question, who should basically work on the so what, not the so what per se, but who should work on so what, we can try to correlate that. We can see, and hey, well, here is a new technology topic, here's a new trend, who from your 60,000 people employee basis might be a good fit for a team when talking about the so what. So it's not answering the so what, but it's trying to help find the right people that could answer the so what question. And at the end of the day, you get a list of suggestions for maybe a team, for team members by a certain confidence, sorted by that, who you could ask to be part of the team that should answer the so what question. So it's a step towards this direction. It's obviously not answering this to the full extent, but at least you can find the right people. And just from our experience, or my personal experience, in large organizations, specifically in globally distributed organizations, it's already kind of hard to find the right people for the right job. And this helps maybe a bit identifying, the right people to work on that. And this again saves time, may increase the quality of the so what analysis, and ultimately the company benefits from the output of that. So that might be one answer to your question, which is of course very valid in that case. Yeah, sure.
Hi, Christian. Hi, this is David from Mühlroth. We are in Spain, very hot country right now. You can die outside. Well, just one question. Well, I have several questions. So I understand that you have a very nice iTonics platform. It's a software. It's not consultancy company. No, it's more you're developing software for companies, helping them to design the future of their companies. To make you. So I understand you help them to think what do they have to do to move forward with your algorithms and AI. So you are designing the future for them of their companies. Am I right?
This is one, yes, you are. This is one of the three parts that we are helping them with, basically. Yes, it's the very early part, and this was the focus also of my speech today. I just had to, narrow down and focus a bit. And that's one of the three parts where we help them. True.
This is the strategy. This is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
And then, where do you help them? In what parts?
Yeah. So once we basically, have kind of finished that, the second thing, as Galadino, as the colleagues from Nuremberg, which I learned you're just sitting somewhere nearby, have asked, the so what, we're also trying to help here, but we're also trying then in the next step, integrating these insights into the actual innovation process, which means running ideation challenges that can be using all employees, that can be used in smaller groups, maybe just in departments, R&D departments, or stuff like that. So from the example from the NASDAQ 100, top 10 NASDAQ 100 company I just brought in recently, here we are, for example, running since years now the global innovation challenges, which is happening once a year. So we do collaboration and we try to reuse these insights and build a platform for that as well. And in the third part, then we also help by I would say manage and track the execution, but not the actual execution. So the actual execution is not something we are doing or we are consulting in, but we help basically manage the execution, manage maybe if there's innovation KPIs to be fulfilled, get all the data, track it, track the progress, track also the progress of the innovation pipeline, do a innovation portfolio management, so to say. That's kind of the third part what we are helping with, but it depends. For each company, it's different. Some companies just need help at the very early stages. They're very good at the later stages. At least they think so, and we believe that. Then, of course, then we just do the early stages. Or some companies may have issues with actually, streamlining and creating a balanced innovation portfolio. Then we help them there, but they may not have some demands in the very early or strategy part. So it depends, and we need to discuss and engage to always find that out and then see if there's an opportunity or not. So it's highly dynamic, I'd say.
When did you start developing all the AI? So how much time did you spend until now?
I guess it started maybe 6 years ago or something, 6 or 7 years ago, I'd say. And of course, the first 80% are really easy. So of course you just take existing libraries, you put them together some stuff, and then there is some results, and you say, wow, this is crazy, and the AI doesn't understand me, and that's understood. And there are so many good people out there that can do that, like data analysts and then software engineers, and they're really getting good at this. The harder part is more than the optimization, the last 10%, the last 20%. And I don't say we have the full 100%, absolutely not, but it's the harder part actually. Once you've set up something over time, experience it, and get the most added value for the users and the customers out there, that's actually the hard part. And this is why it takes some months and even years to kind of shape that over the years, I'd say.
Okay. Well, I already sent you a LinkedIn request, because I would like to talk to you.
Sure, let's talk, of course. That's what this format is for, I guess. Absolutely.
I don't know, it was Kevin yesterday that he suggests that we should collaborate, not
let's talk. Absolutely. Let's do that offline. I would be more than happy. Sure, let's have a call and discuss. Of course.
Thank you, Hugo, for the introduction through the cafe.
No problem. I just want 20% of that deal. That's fine. 20 is the magic number, okay, per year.
True that.
Another question here again from Marius. Have you ever compared the results of people with the results of your approach? Very good one.
Very good one. And yes, we did. This was one of the things that we that we need to do before we implement this into the software package, because otherwise we would just blame ourselves. And so yes, we did that, and actually there will be an upcoming scientific publication on that soon, I guess maybe in, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 months or so, where we did exactly that. In short, it was also surprising to us, because we always try to collaborate with domain experts from the companies that are very deep in their technology space, in their technology area. So we work together with not only strategists that are very high level, but also with people that are very deep into certain technology fields or technology areas. And we challenged against them because they are kind of the benchmark. They are 10 years or longer in an industry in one specific topic, so they should know what's going on. For example, we did this for an area in the technology area, Internet of Things, industrial Internet of Things, which is a broad topic. And the challenge was basically we should find new topics and new signals that were both unknown, but also highly relevant to the domain experts. And we did that just for challenging it and testing it. And the result was that between 1/3 to 50%, or 33% to 50%, it's a bit depending, of the findings that we have were actually surprising, but also highly relevant to these domain experts. Now, this can have several reasons. That doesn't necessarily mean that our approach is the perfect one, the best one. It can also maybe just be that we found some things that they did not consider to be relevant in the past, so new topics that they were kind of unknowns, or maybe also just due to the sheer amount of data, they cannot overlook anymore what's happening. So for example, we found a couple of startups that were financed with quite amount of money, I'd say, and they were actually tapping into the same markets as this company, but they didn't know that. Obviously, this is highly relevant and strategic information. They should know that. So there were a couple of startups that we identified with this approach. But there were also a couple of competitors in that case that were making quite some big deals with the markets and also with governmental institutions, where this company we were challenging against actually could be the supplier for that. But they weren't, because they were not aware of that's something happening in that space. So there were things that obviously cannot be captured by visiting conferences, doing some Las Vegas trips and try to do some trend scouting here and there, talking to some partners. They were not able to capture this piece of information. So 33 to 50% of this information was new, which is a positive signal for us. And since then, they're using this as one additional tool in their strategy toolbox. They're not replacing those people, obviously, but they're just using this in addition to have to reduce the probability of getting surprised. And getting surprised as a company is a very bad thing. So they try to, reduce this by any means and use that as one additional toolbox for strategizing and monitoring the markets.
Thank you very much. One last question. We are running out of time, which is good. I can see all the excitement, and I understand why. This was a very good presentation. The Premier League of AI and innovation strategy management, all of that together, it helps throughout the process, which is good. One last question. Kevin, you are so quiet today. I was looking at you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my head around what my concern with this is, right? Because there's something that feels dangerous about it. Because initially I get incredibly excited by this. I think of business intelligence, and over my shoulder, there's a poster for a client we've got who does natural language generation for business intelligence reports. So when you say, oh, will this remove people's jobs? No, it will increase people's jobs. Oh. Because the easier it has been to create quality business intelligence reports, the more value there is in investing in it, and the more the business intelligence professionals are able to focus on communicating and analyzing rather than writing reports and getting the basics. And I can see this, I want to get really excited by this, because I can imagine a big company saying, well, this is our business intelligence, which tells us what happens within our organization. And this is our environmental intelligence, our social intelligence, that's what's happening within the societies and ecosystems we're working within. This is awesome. But there's something about that that bothers me. And I think it's when you talk about reading journals, automatically reading journals, and an equivalent to going to Las Vegas and listening to reports. You know, I think all of us over the last few years have seen things happen socially that we could never have expected. Could you have imagined 10 years ago telling people that the United States will elect Donald Trump and then Britain would vote to leave the European Union? That's batshit crazy, right? But it happened. But all of our expert analysis was based on the way people present their opinions, much like they present them in Las Vegas and much like they present them in academic journals. You're actually not an AI company, but how many AI companies are there out there who claim to be AI companies but aren't, but they present themselves that way because it's useful, right? So I've got this horrible feeling that this could be incredibly powerful, and yet it might be focusing on self-presentation and perception and missing really powerful underlying currents.
And I got another one for you.
To end with something so vague, because I'm not really sure what bothers me about this, but it just somehow seems a bit too uncertain.
Absolutely, absolutely. And maybe I got another one just for food for thought. I mean, we're over time right now, but something that might be also bothering or worrying people, and I've experienced this when just talking about that. The topic for that is self-fulfilling prophecy. So the question would be, if, and this is a large question, but if everybody would work like that and kind of, you know, would look into some direction and work in some direction, are we actually creating a self-fulfilling prophecy out of that? Because some, you know, some algorithms or some decision points or input for decision making is actually being supplied by some artificially intelligent system. And since this information is globally available for everybody, they're giving everybody the same signals. And by that, you're actually running into kind of a thing which could be a self-fulfilling prophecy, which means if companies are starting to invest into one direction, and in future, everybody will easily be able to see that, can you not just, I don't know, misuse that by you know, just investing into one specific direction on purpose to mislead everybody else? Or will everybody follow that, but it may or may not be the actual best solution, be it socially, be it technologically, for economy and society? So that might be one thing that could be worrying, but not today, but maybe in the future. It's also one thing to just think about and then wrap the head around that. Yeah, exactly. It is this one, but we should at least think about that or have this in mind when experimenting with these kind of approaches in the future.
That is awesome. Thank you.
Brilliant, really exciting presentation and very good questions, which means that it just reinforces the fact the presentation was really, really good. So check itonicsinnovation.com, right? Is it .com?
It is .com and .de. Yeah, it is perfect. Yeah,
and by the way, your website is really cool. I love the dance. So now
the dancing astronaut. Yeah, I will tell our creative director. Yeah, so there were some internal discussions about the dancing astronaut in hot pink color, but yeah, I let him know that it's okay. Yeah.
No, it's such a cool website. I was like, what the hell is this? No, it's really cool. The guy is dancing. So now we need all to stand up and dance as well, because this is going to YouTube. And I did 1 million followers. So we need to do something crazy, okay? I'm just kidding. Guys, it was really exciting. Christian, thank you so much. I'll say Dankeschön. It was really, really good. And hope to see you tomorrow at the same time, because we have another session. This time with Kanye, we will discuss product management and how to delight customers in a post-COVID world. And next week, more sessions. Okay. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your evening. Very nice. It was a pleasure once again.
Thank you all. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.